think what's crazy about this video is that this is the most impromptu video I've ever done in my life on YouTube. I feel like it's also going to be like one of the realest videos I've done on YouTube. Um, I haven't actually come on my YouTube channel, so this is like a life update slash this video is going to be all over the place slash take what you can from this video. I always think I'm being super vulnerable as a person, because I've always been somebody who just like talks about everything and is able to like voice how they feel. But this stage of my life has called for a different type of vulnerability that I'm unable to explain. And I think the reason why is because I've always been somebody who thought they got it all figured out. Like, I've always been somebody who I saw a very clear path for my life at a young age. I've always been an artist. I don't know if I've actually shared my whole artist story on my YouTube, but I feel like this is like a great segue to like talk about this. But I've always been an artist. I've been an artist since I was young. I grew up in Nigeria. If you guys don't know, I grew up in Nigeria. I was raised in Nigeria. I was born in America, but raised in Nigeria. And I just remember being an artist in high school. And it was one of the most humbling experiences ever because I currently now crochet. And I've been crocheting for years, honestly, since high school. I think I learned it from one of my friends or something like that. And I remember I always used to like crochet in class. And the teachers would just like take my crochet projects and, it was just all these things. And I also remember very vividly in high school getting bullied perpetually, like all the time. And back then, I had such low self-esteem because I didn't really see beauty within me. I'll never forget this one time my teacher in high school was always telling my mom, like, oh, this girl has potential, and I've always just had this higher calling towards the arts. Like, in some way, I knew that I was gonna do something artsy, creative. It didn't matter what it was. I just knew that that was gonna be my calling, you know. I also used to do comics in high school, and I just remember this one vivid memory of showing people my work in high school and them being like, oh, taunting me and just being like, oh, you're doing art, that's interesting. But I was in science class because obviously as a Nigerian, I didn't know that I had much of a choice. Nobody pushed me, but I just didn't feel like I had much of a choice than to be a science student. So, in eighth grade, I was just this science student who knew that they did not belong, and I could tell I was drawn to things like debate. Like, I was in the debate club in eighth grade. Let's not talk about that. And I just knew that that was something that I liked. Moving on to college, I had a chance. And I would never forget that I had a chance because this was regardless of anybody telling me what to do. I knew that I had a chance to actually pursue my art and actually go after what I wanted. And I had the chance to either apply for the art program or go into psychology. And at that time, I was young. I was about like 17, 18 years old. Had grown up so sheltered from so many things that when it came time to deciding what I wanted for my life, I had no role models or ideas of what I wanted to be. All I knew was at the time, being an artist, a visual artist, or any artist, any sort in that time was very unheard of. And I didn't really have anybody to look up to. So I had done all the work to be accepted into the art program, but I doubted myself so much because I was like, how am I going to do this? Like, what am I going to be in life? An artist? And at that time, artist was such a foul thing to be. I don't know why, but like it was just this thing where it's like starving artist or like struggling artist. You just think about all those terms and you're like, is this something that I really want to do with my life? And then moving on into college is really where I started getting most of my creative bursts and really trying to figure things out and saw that I was really into fashion, and literally was one of the people who just I went to college at UMBC, and I used to dress up to class every morning just because I could. Nobody said anything about, but I just, I used to put on makeup. And honestly, that's kind of where like the whole Instagram thing started, because I genuinely loved taking photos, and I genuinely just loved just expressing myself through fashion and photography. Now, I'm saying all this to say this. Over the years, I've built a career for myself as an artist. And I've built such a solid career for myself. And it's one of those things that I am so proud of myself for doing. And a lot of times, I don't take time out to tell myself that, because of where I'm at right now, And where I'm at right now is less of I'm no longer being a creative, because to be honest, this is the most creative I've ever felt in my life. But I've had to get like a full-time job and a part-time job. And honestly has made me like go out of the house a lot more. And, I'm really honestly enjoying it. But there's a small part of me that feels like I failed in my creative journey. And failure isn't something that I'm new to. I failed a lot in life, to be honest. Like high school, I failed. I understand the feeling of failure. But I think that when you have such a clear picture of what your life is quote unquote supposed to look like, and it goes a different way, life transitions aren't something that you really get to prepare for or are really explained to how things go. So a lot of times you're just left with this thought of what path am I on, and where do I go from here? For the past couple of years, honestly 3 years to be exact, my life has gone from being married, having kids, going through a divorce, to online bullying. And through those times, there has been lessons I learned in each experience. And those lessons I learned, I feel like that's actually what brought me to this place where I am. And I know that I'm supposed to share. I've always been somebody who has that knack to share, because I know that my voice matters. But I started to be in this place where I started being so hard on myself, being so hard on myself for the choices I made in the past, being so hard on myself for not being able to follow through with the things that I want to do or meet the goals that I've been planning for myself for the past 3-4 years. And I'm finally learning that word grace. It's a word that has been in and out of my mind, or in and out of, just grace. Giving myself grace has been something that has been so hard for me to do in this phase of my life. And I think the reason why is because I'm just somebody who really is always striving to be better every time. And I've put my worth so deep into being better at every time, that now that in my head I'm actually one of the best versions I've ever been, I can't fathom that I'm enough. I can't fathom that this is who I've always wanted to be. And in a way, I'm at a place where I'm letting things just flow now. I'm no longer pushing for things that I want to happen, or the goals that I feel like should be in my life, because I feel like sometimes we don't realize that our lives aren't ours, and that was a very harsh realization I came onto when I realized that my life wasn't mine, because I smile through everything. I've always been that person. Like, they say check on the strong friends and things like that. I've always been that person to be like hella goofy, hella funny all the time. And I've realized that even though that's like my greatest strength, it's also my greatest weakness, because when I am down, I'm down by myself, or, I will self-isolate to prevent people from caring about me, when at the same time I do want to be cared about, you know? And I think that's something that a lot of us struggle with, is that duality of human emotion, the duality of being grieving, but then at the same time being super happy, or the reality of loving, but then also the reality of hating. It's like finally realizing that two things can coexist at the same time is very confusing. But at the same time, very liberating, because I feel like you now start to realize you're not alone. Or come out, about their relationships, or come out about their struggles of motherhood. And honestly, just how refreshing it has been watching people be more vulnerable online. Even though, sometimes we look at online as a place where, oh well, this is not this person's real life, or oh, this might not be really what this person is going through. But you sometimes, the same way you get glimpses of happy moments, you can sometimes get glimpses of down moments that people have. And it takes a certain type of courage to be vulnerable online. And I think that the same way clapping back and all these things have been normalized should be the same way vulnerability is normalized, because I feel like the more people really get vulnerable online, the less alone people feel. It's comforting to know that we're all experiencing some type of things in our life that cannot just be sorted out through one thing or the other. I started to really get into realizing that life is so complex. I used to be such a black and white thinker before. I used to think like this, if you do this, you're a good person. If you do this, you're a bad person. Until I started realizing like that's not really how life is. Like life is just the sum of the decisions and experiences you've had that cause you to act a certain way, And it's like once you start to see things that way, you start to realize that like everybody is just acting from a place of what they've experienced. They're acting from a place of either hurt, or they're acting from a place of love. And one thing that I really love about creativity is, and I've heard a lot of people on TikTok talk about this, people who are creative most of the time, the reason why we're able to get through so many things is because we put in so much effort into what we create that it fuels us in a different way. I honestly feel like if I was somebody who was motivated by like money, or like the amount of followers I had, I truly feel like by this point I would have given up 100%. There's no way. Especially the events of the past couple of 3 years, where not only have I like lost thousands of followers on Instagram, or thousands on YouTube, or even like just in general, which crazy enough was my worst fear at some point, which I've started to realize like all the things that we fear, when they come to pass, it's never that serious, But I would have given up, because what is, you build something and then you watch it kind of like deteriorate over time, and you think to yourself like, is this thing that I'm doing even worth it? But you know what's crazy? This is actually the real reason why I'm doing this video. I was listening to this Beyonce song the other day. Yeah, it's called I Was Here by Beyonce. You guys should go listen to it. But in that song, she was basically talking about writing her name in the sands of time. And of course, Beyonce is Beyonce. She big. The sands of time, it's written. You know what I mean? Like she's already, it's good, But what I found really interesting about that song was that the way, first of all, it's an old song. It was from her album 4. But something so deep about that song was, sometimes we focus so much on what we want that we don't think about the things that we've already done. A long time, I would meet people, people who subscribe to me, and I would just like, hug them and stuff. And I used to do it very mindlessly. But over the past couple of years, when people come up to me and they say things like, oh, wow, like you really, like I used to learn from you, I used to watch your YouTube, it means something so different now, It's like, in a way, the way I see things is like, wow, exactly what you wanted is what you did and what you are currently and consistently doing. You're still doing what you love, and I think that that's actually the artist's journey. The artist's journey isn't really about being a starving artist or being scared to follow your creative pursuits. The artist's journey is really about doing something for your soul's purpose, doing something that brings you joy regardless of the fruits that it bears. One of my favorite stories is about the bamboo shoot, and how it takes so long for the bamboo shoot to grow. But when it does, I think it grows like 10 feet in like an hour or something. It grows like super fast. I relate so much to that story because I did everything fast. Like I thought to myself, you know what? This is how I want my life to be. I have a stable relationship. I want to get married. I want to have kids. I want to do everything. And I never stopped to think about the foundation. I never stopped to think about what I was actually building on top of. They always talk about like the houses and like how if this foundation is not solid, then the house won't stand and things like that. But sometimes those kind of analogies are even very, very complicated. For me, the analogy that really gets me is the Three Little Pigs. The Three Little Pigs is a story of literally three little pigs. And there's one that builds his house from sticks, one that builds his house from straw, and there's one that builds his house from brick. And eventually all the pigs go into the brick house because that's the only house that is safe for them, because of the foundation and how hard the structure was to break. I think sometimes when people think of relationships or forming a family and things like that, they always just think about the amount of years it took to build something, but they don't know what type of materials they used to build it. Like, did you use straw to build your relationship, or did you use brick? Even if you used 15 years to build straw, it's going to demolish when the wolf comes and the wolf blows it down. But if you use 15 years to build on brick, no matter what, the brick will stand. And I think that's why I've gotten so much more into taking things so much slower now. Actually leaning into understanding what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, changing course if necessary, being open to doing things that I might not have ever done if I didn't even open my mind to it. Because I started realizing that in life, the worst thing you can do is not try. The worst thing you can do is have the regret that you did not try. The one regret that I know in this lifetime that I never want to have, and I work so hard to never have, is the regret that I did not put my all into something. And my all, when I mean my all, I mean properly do something. I've been working, like this past year actually, I've been taking my fitness journey really seriously. And even though I've had times where like here and there where I either fall off or things like that, I started to realize that the reason why I never really started a fitness journey to begin with was because I thought to myself that a fitness journey was me. If I don't work out 3-4 times a week and I stop, then I have to stop forever. I started realizing it's a journey. I started realizing that, yeah, some days I will work out 4 days a week, and some weeks I would not work out at all. But as long as I recognize on the 4th week that, I haven't worked out in 2 weeks, and continue, then that's really where it lies. Even with my eating habits, like I used to be somebody who really, I ate a lot of junk food all the time. And when I started like increasing my water intake, really actually eating fruits and vegetables, I can actually say with confidence that I eat at least a piece of fruit a day and drink my water. And I've just seen such a difference in my skin. I've seen such a difference in just everything, and it starts to make me realize like all the little things that people tell you that, sleep well, do this, do that. We kind of take them for granted. because we think that there are other things more important than our health. But at the same time, without the health, you're not going to be able to work or do any other thing or any of the creative pursuits. So me taking care of my body has just taught me so many things about life, because it has taught me that anything that you dedicate your time towards grows. If you dedicate your time towards doing something, it can even just be one day. If you think to yourself, okay, this one day I'm going to walk. And then you think that again the next day, and then you think that again the third day. Next thing you know, you've walked 3 times a week, And I started realizing, like, breaking life down into days and hours and really trying to structure out how things you want to do is what causes all those small trickle effects that then leads you to have much more success or in anything that you want to do. And that's why now I just take things day by day. It was really important for me to be super consistent on my YouTube, post every week and things like that. But then I started realizing that I was putting so much pressure on myself that I wasn't even posting at all. So what's the point? So now I'm like, instead of trying to figure out what videos I want to do or trying to figure out, like writing down all these things, why don't you just do what you want, And that's what I'm doing. That's why I'm making this video, because I feel like this isn't like a typical video I do. I mean, it is. I talk a lot. I talk to you guys all the time. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, I haven't done one of these type of videos in a while. I feel like I say this all the time. And every single time I say things like this, I just remember all those people on TikTok that clown influencers for saying the same things. And I just think to myself, like, oh God, not you saying the same thing. But yeah, I just kind of, for me, this, YouTube and things like that, it became so serious at some point, And today I just got back from work and I was just like, why don't you just talk? I felt like I had a lot to say. And a lot of times I overthink when I have stuff to say. I start to think to myself, like, oh, what's going to be the beginning? What's going to be the end? What are you actually going to talk about? And I forget that, like, once I sit down and I start talking, I will remember what I want to talk about and topics will flow to me. But yeah, I don't really know. But yeah, man, that's really what it is. But I'm just glad I did this video, to be honest. I wanted kind of like a video where I sat down and chatted with you guys and kind of, get to know me again, I feel like at every increment, I'm a different role care. And honestly, I'm still getting to know myself. And I truly don't believe that anybody can really know themselves to the entirety, because we learn ourselves on a day-to-day basis. But I do believe that I'm in a place where I'm so much more stable and comfortable in who I am, that I no longer care about how people perceive me or how they feel like I should be, And I feel like that's liberating for me. And now my child is crying, so I guess this video is over. Anyway, leave your thoughts, comments down below. Talk, I've talked. I want to hear you guys talk. So leave me a comment in the comment section down below, and I will see you in my next video. I'm going to go and attend to my child because he's crying. Oh, let me do that Tyler dance. Okay, wait. Let me just make sure. Oh, you know what? Bye.